Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, our guest is Ms. Jenny Toe. And the reason I invited Ms. Jenny onto our podcast today is for my survivors out there that might be struggling with feeling introverted. So Jenny, I'm going to read her bio really quick, and she's going to fill in any gaps that I miss because we know I kind of stumble sometimes. But Jenny is an International Coaching Federation professional certified coach. She runs her own private coaching practice, River Life Coaching. Jenny is also a qualified lawyer in the UK, Singapore, and Malaysia. She is passionate about coaching introverted individuals to be more visible on their own terms and to empower them to live fully and joyfully. Thanks, Jenny, for being here today.
Thanks, Karen, for having me. And I love the pace of your voice. It's very calm and soothing. I'm sure all your other guests would have said the same thing to you. And your listeners would enjoy listening to you as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. It was very kind. My clients give me that feedback quite a bit, that they feel like safe in my presence because I'm not.
Yes.
Because of the tone and
yes, I can feel that. Yeah. That's what coaches do as well. And like yourself in your work, when you counsel women who are impacted by trauma, to provide this safe space to tell them that, hey, you are not journeying alone. There is someone here, to support you, to just be a companion along the way.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, I really wanted to thank you for being here too, because not only are you working with introverts, which there's a huge need for more, help for our introverted clientele, but I think you're my first person from Singapore. So I love, because we're really trying to be international, and now you're my first person from Singapore. So thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm so honored. Thank you. And yeah, for your listeners, there's like a huge 12 hours time difference. It's my nighttime where it's Karen's morning, actually.
Right. And I've been to the UK and I've been to Malaysia. So I think you might have to invite me to Singapore because I haven't been there yet.
Well, we're opening our doors now, so definitely a lot more travel now. I think everyone's, traveling a bit freer. So yeah. When you're over here, you know how to reach me.
Yeah, I would love to look you up once I get a chance to go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Then we can do a in-person podcast.
Oh, yeah. I would love that. That would be really fun. Yeah. So Jenny, how did you decide to go from a lawyer to a coach? I mean, you're probably doing both, but what was the ignition or the firecracker event, if there was one event, that led to your decision to do coaching? Tell us about your journey.
Well, I don't think that was just like, an overnight shift. It took some time. So lawyering for me is still very much intellectually stimulating. I still do some legal consulting work. And coaching for me is more of a personal passion project, you can say. I'm a Christian, so I believe that this is what God has called me into in this season of my life, to help, people through coaching. And I didn't turn overnight, into like, okay, I wake up one morning and I want to be a coach. It doesn't happen that way. I probably had that seed of the desire to be a coach planted, quite a number of years ago. I put it off because it didn't seem rational at that time. I have a full-time job, I've got kids, and I've got a mortgage. So, changing such a change from being a lawyer to a coach is a big step, and so definitely I took time to think about it. However, that feeling that I'm meant to do this just got stronger and stronger, and I couldn't quite push it away. It came to a point that I felt really uncomfortable each time the idea of coaching came up. When I pushed it away, I found it harder to push it away. And that's when in 2018, I discussed with my husband. I said that, this is something I need to do. And because I jumped through so many academic and professional hoops to be a lawyer, when I did my research on how to be a coach, I was quite surprised that, anyone can call themselves a coach. They don't have to go through training and all that. And that did sit well with me. So I made that decision that if I want to go into this profession, I want to get it right. I want to be trained in it. So that's when I searched and I discovered International Coaching Federation, which is a global non-profit organization built by coaches, first formed by coaches, built by coaches. And it's to ensure that the level of coaching is of a certain standard based on a set of core competencies and a very strong code of ethics, which I can relate to. And then I feel comforted in that sense that at least there's a community feeling, and at least there are something to keep us in check, right? Like I said in the beginning, anyone can call themselves a coach. So we are dealing with people's lives here. And I find that as a big responsibility. So I don't want to just go into it. So I trained as a coach. That took over a year. And then I got credentialed by ICF as well. And I've been running my business for about two years now, because I started at the pandemic. So that's another long story. But basically, I started it without knowing that the pandemic was going to hit. I mean, I planned to start it at that time. And then when the pandemic hit, I just took another step of faith to say that, I'm just going to do this, and I'm glad I did, because if I didn't, I'll still be waiting, right?
Right. Yeah. Now, I love that you're saying that this is a calling. I believe that when I decided to become a social worker and a therapist, and also a coach, that what they were also calling. So I love that. That means you're in line with what your purpose is and what your values are. So that's beautiful. So tell me, what kind of coaching do you do with introverts? Like, do you do individual work? Do you do group work? Where are you at in that journey?
It's more one-to-one, and I'm a life coach, so it's more one-to-one. And I don't go out and only, like reach out to introverts, although I'm very passionate about helping introverts. I remember Karen, my first client, is actually an extrovert, and she found me on LinkedIn, and she said that, first off, Jenny, I'm not an introvert, but I really find that, what your social media posts resonates with me. And then that's how we got connected. So it's not like I'm closing my door to anyone. Right, yeah. I believe, just like you, that once we know our purpose and once we get clear on our purpose and we align our lives to our purpose, it just makes it more meaningful and more fulfilling. And as a result, you are also helping the people around you, because when you feel more positive, more hopeful about your life, those who are around you are also positively impacted. So I believe that if I can coach one person to get from good to better to, to be the best self, it's causing a ripple effect around all the people whom I've coached. So I think that's brilliant. I don't have to, help so many people. I just need to help one person at a time, and then you can see that ripple effect. So it's one-to-one coaching. And for introverts, a lot of times it's about, building that self-confidence and working towards being able to communicate in a way that the introverted client is more comfortable with, and at the same time adapting to the organizational culture, because a lot of people find that I cannot be as loud or and extroverted as that person. And I coach that person and say, you don't have to be that way. You don't have to be someone else. You just need to find a way that is authentic to yourself. However, you may have to put on an extroverted self for certain periods, right? Because that's when the situation calls for it. But then when to recharge and refresh yourself, because for introverts, we need a lot of time to introspect, to, draw into our corner somewhere and get recharged before we can go out and do our thing again.
Yeah. So I love that you recognize, and it sounds almost like celebrate, like you're not trying to change people from being their core selves. It's more than okay to be introverted. It's not a sin. It's not a character flaw. It's who God made you to be. It can be beautiful. But however, there are some skills that will help us in life if we, learn how to advocate for ourselves effectively, and that communication piece that you were talking about. So I love that, almost like wearing an extrovert hat just for a little bit, and then you can be free to go back to who you really are. I love that,
yes.
Jenny. Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of times when introverts realize that, what they're really passionate about. So that's to say, you're passionate about a social cause. When you want to speak about that social cause, I will tell them to reflect on that purpose rather than think about, will I be presenting well? Will I be articulating, the facts correctly? Or, introverts tend to mull in our heads and want everything to be perfect before it goes out. So when you focus on that purpose and reconnect to why you need to speak up about this purpose, who will benefit from hearing this, then they get all excited and passionate. And that's when they have that extroverted burst, because introverts are usually very passionate about, the things that they care about.
Yeah, that's good. So it's that burst of energy that helps them carry through their message. Yeah, so they don't have to feel like they're acting. It's you're going to see their natural passion when they're speaking out about their purpose. So that's really cool.
And actually, in actual fact, I was reading that a lot of CEOs and senior leaders are actually introverted. You just didn't realize it because, when they are talking to, their staff and giving speeches and all that, they are very connected to their purpose. And that's when they go all out, and you can only see that more extroverted, charismatic self. However, after that, they need to recharge. So introverts draw their energy by being alone, by being with themselves, by reflecting, and by really thinking things through. Whereas for extroverts, they get their energy around people. So the more people they communicate with, the more recharged they are. So I also coach my clients to say, give yourself permission. If you really feel tired after talking for 2-3 hours, it's okay to excuse yourself, to block out time in your calendar that you need a 20-minute break. There's nothing wrong. Because a lot of times, I think we introverts feel pressured, like, we need to be on the go all the time, just like those colleagues or friends who are more extroverted. But it's okay. You can give yourself permission to have that quiet time, to leave earlier, to say that, I really need some time to think about things. And that's fine. That doesn't make you, like you said, a weaker person. That doesn't make you, there's nothing wrong with you in respecting yourself and knowing your limits.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as you're aware, my audience tends to be women, often mothers, career women who are recovering from some sort of trauma, usually something from child abuse, maybe sexual assault. And often those women find themselves in unhealthy relationships, not always, of course. And so what's your experience working with trauma survivors? Like, how do you relate to them?
First off, I'm glad you brought that up. So to your listeners, I'm a coach, not a therapist like you, Karen. So when I hear things that are more deep-rooted emotional issues, that could, for example, your clients who went through trauma or who are depressed or who are anxious, I'll definitely ask them whether they are seeing a therapist. That being said, it doesn't mean that person cannot work with a coach, because both the therapist and the coach will help get that person to a better place. The therapist will help deal with the more deep-rooted emotional issues. And when that person is better, a coach can come in and say that, okay, so what's your situation right now, and what do you want to plan for, and walk along with that person as that person plans something going forward. So as a coach, when I hear someone who has this kind of issues, and a lot of time, yes, the experience is painful and hurtful, but we carry it. The client carries it in her because it's always in her head, repeating it. And her past experiences is imprinted on all the present situations. Although she can tell herself intellectually, it's not the same person, it's not the same situation, but because of her trauma, that comes up. So as a coach, I kind of highlight, how true is it that this particular situation, this will happen, A, B, C, D will happen. And then in the beginning, of course, the person will say, yeah, it's happened before. I know it will happen. And I coach that person to see that, it's your perspective and from your experiences that the present situation is kind of, how shall I put it, kind of blurred by your past experiences. Yeah. And it's to encourage that person to see the present situation as it is. How would you see it if you're being objective, or how would you see it if you could see the positive sides of it, the benefits of it, and if you had that peace and that calmness to go into the situation, what would you do? And a lot of times when they think that way, they'll be like, oh, I wouldn't hold myself back so much, or I would say this to that person, or I would say, this is my boundary, respect my boundary. But because they are kind of blocked by what happened in the past, they find that, I don't think there's a point in saying this, or I can't say this, or I shouldn't say this. So it's a lot of mindset blocks as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. It reminds me in cognitive behavioral therapy, there's this core belief that's called victim. And when you're a trauma survivor, there was a time in your past that you were a victim, right? You were didn't deserve what happened to you. So even though that was a true statement for that event, a problem can be with mindset if you carry that belief you're a victim in other situations, like you were talking about. So sometimes when we, have a history of childhood abuse, and that's part of our baggage, and then we don't get something we want, let's say it's a job promotion, we can say, oh, nothing ever good happens to me. I never get what I want. Life is unfair. I'm a victim. And so part of therapy and coaching about that mindset change is like, no, it's true you were a victim then, but let's reframe what happened now. Because believing we're a victim now in the future is not helpful. It's not productive. It won't help you achieve your goals. It won't help you feel better. So what would be more helpful to believe? In something like, I'm a survivor. I work hard to get what I want. I have faith in myself. That's going to be more effective in helping people with their life transitions and new jobs and relationships and so forth. Would you agree with that, Jenny?
Yeah, definitely. It's just that shift of that word, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a victim to be, I'm a survivor. You can see, if you call yourself a victim, you think that you are not in control of anything. Things happen to you. People do things to you, and you are hopeless because you don't have that sense of control. Whereas if you shift your thinking to I'm a survivor, you take charge of your life. You consider, what am I in control with? What am I in control of? What am I responsible of? And by doing that, you find that, you find that you're not so helpless because there are still things that are within your control. And a lot of it is largely how you look at that situation, how you think about it, and the actions you choose. So like you said, you didn't get the promotion, and then if you spiral downwards to think that, oh, nothing good has ever happened, that's a very, I guess, pervasive view. Like, because something bad happened to me in the past, everything else that happens now is, it all ties into this big picture that nothing good ever happens. However, if you look at it that, okay, I can see why I didn't get that. And maybe in the beginning say, I cannot see why I didn't get that promotion, but I can talk to my manager, and ask what were the areas of growth that I should work on so that I'm eligible for the next cycle. Or, you could take stock about, your own strengths. Maybe even talk to the colleague who got promoted and find out, what types of projects he or she took on. And in a way, maybe, see this as an opportunity to reevaluate where you are. Is this company the right place for you?
I was hoping
because sometimes because sometimes we're so comfortable in our comfort zone, right? Yeah. And sometimes it takes this kind of thing to make you think like, oh, should I still be sitting here? Am I wasting my time here?
Exactly. Yeah. Because sometimes it is an unfair process that's happened, and we can never say, oh, it's all in your head. It was probably very fair. No, like when you take the inventory, like you're talking about your strengths and looking at yourself objectively about what you can improve upon. But if you already know that it was not an equal or fair process, maybe that's not the place for you to work, because you deserve to work at a place that values you and is fair to work for. Right.
I do have to caution that part though, because I know that sometimes people will say that, oh, I hate my job, I'm going to quit. Mm-hmm. So pause there for a bit and see, is there anything else that you can still learn from the situation? Because a lot of people, it's not so easy just to quit a job they don't like. And even for people in jobs they love, there's still things about that job that doesn't excite them. So if you're in that situation, take stock to think like, okay, what's going well here? What are the things that are not going well here? How long more can I stay here while I look for another job elsewhere? And if I need to stay here, until I get the new job, what are the skills that I can still continue to grow in here? What are who are the people I can continue to build relationships with? Because when I leave, I can still leverage on this network of colleagues, and managers that, who knows, could help me further down the road. So it's not to see like, oh, I hate this place, I need to get out of it now.
Right.
Try and see the benefits and what you can utilize from that place while you're planning that transition.
Yeah. So not be too impulsive.
Yes.
But also, would you say it's a good idea to start the search if you're working in a toxic work environment?
Definitely. Then that comes to respecting yourself, right? And also being in control. Do you want to fall back again into the victim mode? Or do you want to say, I'm not going to let this happen to me. This is my boundaries. This is my limit. I have my self-worth. So I would defer to you whether, your clients, they also suffer some self-esteem issues because of what has happened. So a lot of times coaches, therapists bring, these people to remember who they truly are and how much they are worth, and to have compassion for themselves. It's so much easier to have compassion and empathy for others. But when, you ask people to apply it to themselves, they are so hard on themselves. And I think you see it a lot more in women. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men, but somehow women are a lot more harder on themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned compassion. My favorite book about self-compassion is by Dr. Kristen Neff. It's called Self-Compassion. Do you have any favorite books, Jenny, about mindset, or books that you recommend your clients read when they're shifting from a negative mindset to more healthy mindset?
I like this little book. It's by the late Susan Jeffers. It's called Feel Your Fears and Do It Anyway. It's just a small little book here, and it's a very encouraging book because all you need to do is take that small step outside your comfort zone to face your fear. So we're not telling people to, if you're afraid of heights, to go up the tall building and, I don't know, take a dive off on a parachute. We're not asking you to do that. It's just very small steps. So for an introvert, if I'm coaching that introvert and the introvert feels that I don't know how to communicate more assertively and things like that. So there are small steps to take. Is there one person that you want to reach out to ask for some information? How would you do it? So for an introvert, they'll plan. They'll be like, oh, that person's probably too busy. I don't want to disturb that person. So it's just dropping an email to say that, I'd like to speak to you for about 15 minutes on this particular topic. When would you be available? So it's those small steps. So my client, one of my clients said that, oh, I can send an email. I'm not comfortable to make a call right away, but I can send an email. So you can see. So then she gets energized. And then when she sends that email and there's a response and the call is scheduled, it's like, wow, I did that. So we celebrate that small success, which is actually, the first of many to come. So this book, Face Your Fears, it just encourages you to take those small steps. And you'll be thinking to yourself, after you've taken so many small steps, what was I holding myself back from anyway? It doesn't seem that scary now.
Right. No, great recommendation. I can't remember if I read it or not. I've definitely heard of the book, so I will add it. Yeah. I will add it to our show notes. Any other books that you recommend that are top of your head?
Well, it's a favorite is Susan Cain, because she wrote the power. The Power of Introverts. So that's a very good book, and it's also scientific based to help people understand that introversion is not just being shy. It's about where you draw your energy from. Yes, and what stimulates you more. So to understand yourself. So I love that book. To get both introverts and extroverts to understand each other.
Yeah, excellent recommendation. I have read that one for sure and found it very powerful. Yeah. Okay. So one of my other questions I like to ask coaches, because I feel like they spend time investing in this area, is I guess personal routines. Like, do you have a favorite routine that you use in your day, or one that you work with your clients on?
Well, I'll start with what I work with my clients on. A lot of my clients feel that they are not good enough. They are already actually high achievers, high performers, but at the same time, coming back to being hard on yourself, they think that, I'm not good enough and I'm not doing enough. So one of the exercises is actually to celebrate daily successes. And they're like, but what if I don't do anything big that day? And I have to get them to shift their thinking around the word successes. Daily successes can be anything. It can be making it home on time to have dinner with your family. That is a daily success. To me, that is a daily success, that I have dinner time with my family. So when you shift that thinking and you just take note of your daily successes, it just makes your day seem more meaningful again. And then you can see a trend that when you find that your days are more meaningful, your life also will feel more fulfilling. So that's just one example. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So anything about morning routines or before bed routines that you...
I need my coffee in the morning. For me,
oh my God, you're so funny.
I need that quiet in the morning because I'm an introvert, and I need that coffee in the morning. Yeah. And then nighttime is always, checking in on my 3 kids before they sleep, and, praying before I turn in myself. So it's a very simple things. It's a nice way to start the day and a nice way to end the day. Yeah.
What I really love about your message, it wasn't bullshitting. It was real. Give me my coffee, and then we can talk about how my day's gonna go.
Yeah. I mean, we are all real, and coaches, therapists alike, we are flawed. It's not like we know everything. We are work in progress ourselves. And at times, we do feel like, why am I doing this? And that's when it's important to reconnect your purpose. The days when I feel low and I ask myself, why am I doing this? I'm so tired, or, 1,001 things have gone wrong. And I just refocus and say that it is meant for a higher purpose. So we have good days and we have bad days. This is more than just me. I believe that I'm doing something for the greater good.
Beautiful. Well, Jenny, it's been awesome having you here with us. If there is something about you that you want my audience to know that you haven't mentioned yet, this is the time to do that, but also let us know how to contact you if we want to learn more about you.
So I do coach as what we're doing now. We're coaching through, we're recording this through Zoom. So I coach through Zoom or any other, online communication tool. So it's possible for you to hire me as a coach, even if you don't live in Singapore. And I do have clients all over the world. So that's something I want to say. It's just that we have to find, the right timing for it, which is challenging, but not difficult. It can be done. So people can find me on www.riverlifecoaching.com. I'm also active on LinkedIn and Facebook under River Life Coaching, and also my personal account, Jenny To, T-O-H. So I think you have all this in your show notes, and your audience will know where to look me up.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. It's been a real pleasure talking with you this morning for me and this evening for you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.